Hello and welcome to day 127 of 365 days of racial change. My name is Tomlins Nyback, and I am enjoying this time spending with you. How many hours have we done? I need to do some calculation. Split 365 in half, and that's going to be generally the amount of time we're going to have spent together at the end of this year-long journey. Here talking about black issues, and we put everybody, we present all aspects, everybody to our forum for examination and see how that impacts our lives and if there's any room for change, if there should be change at all. Two thoughts emerge as I come through this project, as I've been consistent to say, is first thought has two parts. First part is the concern for the black mind and behavior and prevailing thought. That's something we're going to explore, we're going to focus in a little more on today. Second part is the white mind, privilege, entitlement, a lot of expectations for white folks, their knowledge of the system, how they navigate, move about in the world, not just in America. And we really got a lot of roots of the conversation in slavery to a certain degree, but we bring it up into today's world just the same. It's all relevant. So the idea that first thought is the concern for the mind of people, especially black and white, but all people. Second thought is for financial literacy among black people. Do we know how our dollar works? And you're going to see this a day after, but the sitting president made remarks about tariffs with China, and the stock market fluttered. Even my little piece of account took a dip. I'm starting to get used to that. As an investor, I need to be objective, almost like a Vulcan with money and stocks, and so those kinds of things will happen. Natural disasters, national leaders commenting, and it's spilling over to how money is made or lost. But do black people understand that? Do they understand what's going on? How that can snowball and damage? How it can bring down an economy as well as build up? Knowing that, do we understand Federal Reserve banking? Do we care about some of those what we would consider advanced financial terms and topics? I think it's very important to pay attention and give um, some thought and concern to those big issues. We might not have to microscopically articulate those kind of things, but we need to be aware of those terms when they come up. Not turn off our brains or go to our cell phones when people are mentioning these ideas and things in the world, in our economy. We need to know. We want to know what is going on here. Financial literacy, and that's for all people, but especially black folks, because black folks were the major consumer class, yet we don't control enough aspects of wealth and power here in America. If you take away all of our black entertainers, the game show hosts, athletes, pop, rap stars, and all that, sweep that away, that tiny the minority at the tip of the iceberg and look at black folks in general, you're going to find a very vibrant consumer class ignorantly coming to the checkout line with all these goods from other places on the planet. You know, it's rare to find American-made goods even in our own home. I look around at everything's either made in China or not. That's about as far as I can go. But our expendable and disposable income is just going out the door. So it's like the other day I turned on the air conditioning. I have such a hard life. We'll get to that in another post. But I turned on the air conditioning and forgot to open the window. Just throwing money out the window. Okay, so that's what I'm kind of liking it to blacks, the way blacks spend money. You know, we're renting houses, renting apartments. Do we understand that we're paying someone's mortgage? We're paying for someone to own that space. We're paying that. They're off, and they're taking a cut, you know, over and above, you know, because we're paying more than their mortgage. We're paying a lot of things. You got to understand real estate and how that works. That's another aspect uh, of financial literacy. Very important. I'm inspired by a man named Dr. Claude Anderson. Now, his focus is more on the racial aspects and issues. He does touch on the economics and building up a new nation. Let me just introduce you. Get these books. I'm just going to keep pounding this because repetition, you know, we just don't hear it one time. So, like I do with every post, I want you to get these books. Any book I hold up, I generally want you to get. First book I read of his was A Black History Reader, 101 Questions You Never Thought to Ask. Black Labor, White Wealth, Search for Power and Economic Justice, and Dr. Anderson's National Plan to Empower Black America, Powernomics. You can find Dr. Anderson at powernomics.com and the Heritage Institute in Washington, D.C. We reference those books heavily as we move along. We're a third of the way through our project here, and these written books and stuff are going to come more prominent, more to the fore. Behind me, you see hashtag us too. You find black women supporting each other, discoursing there. Nice community there. Go to Black Enough, BLAGGENUF, kind of a black Facebook. Nice place to connect. If you found me here on the World Wide Web on YouTube, then you are technologically literate. Therefore, you can find your flavor, your space, your community anywhere. This is the information age. We have little excuse not to know. You've heard the saying, ignorance of the law is no excuse. Well, now that is exacerbated by the availability of instant information. So it's almost better than the Matrix. The next step is plug something in our head and we can just download. It's coming, I'm sure. I want you to get Uncle Tom's Cabin. This is a fictional account of slave life in America, slave masters, slave traders. We reference that book a lot. I just finished reading it, and you know, as you know, I give an occasional post here, and but I want you to read it to the end. Some very important stuff. We're going to eventually get to the end before the year's over, but you need to read the book all the way. It's very important. All right. We'll catch up on old Tom and see how him and white folks and black folks in mid 1800 America are doing. Today is just, I'm not referencing any works. I'm just talking off the top of my head. I'm talking about black folks defining black people. What are black people? Let me start with some trends that I don't think we're being sensitive to in America. First, I want to point out, you'll look in the description, I talk about the movie Cooley High. It's a kind of a black staple of movies that, I'm not going to find too many black people not associated with that. That it's a movie that really resonates with the black community. And in that, you see, you got black people going from drama to drama, and they're laughing, and there's drugs, alcohol, crime, and all this stuff, inner city issues, police corruption, just all kinds of stuff. But it depicts black life as going from one hazard to the next, and the movie ends with the death of an aspiring basketball player coming out of high school. I forget if a college was mentioned, but yeah, he was gifted and all that stuff, and he was on his way, probably NBA bound, and so he dies at the end. That's kind of a result of miscommunication and stuff like that. Just recently, NFL draft pick for the New York Giants was shot at a party. I watching CNN again. This was a high school player with skills, aspirations. He was shot and killed recently at a party. I lived in a certain city for a little while. These are all black men. Lived in a certain city for a while. Heard about an aspiring basketball star. I don't think he had reached high school, but he had just incredible skills. He wasn't shot and killed, but he was shot in the leg. Probably derailed his career. Not impossible to come back if you survive a gunshot. Akeem Talib was able to. He's still in the NFL doing well. Changed teams. He's not a Bronco anymore, but he was shot in the leg, but he rehabbed, probably got the best treatments, and came back. The thing is, I want to talk about, well, just in the beginning, top of this piece is a trend, though, maybe not so much in Akeem Talib's example. He was at a club, and that's an environment where you might expect, some challenging situations. But these high school guys, college guys, NFL hopefuls being at a party, that seems like a whole different thing to me. So I call it a trend, even though some of these examples are spaced pretty far apart. But you see the black community, imploding on itself when it comes to giving those aspirants that space to rise up, come out of, um, it happens frequently enough for me to see it as a trend. We got our superstars were able to navigate those spaces, and you think starting out in basketball, especially in this inner city, any sport, you're going to be shoulder to shoulder with a community that may be at cross purposes with success of fellow members in the community. So that I start this piece today with what are black people, and while white people kill white people, Hispanics kill Hispanics, Asians kill Asians, and all that, it just seems there's a lack of desperation among black people where we think it's okay to kill off those people doing success. Now you'll hear me here in this forum maybe have some angst against our popular entertainers and stuff like that. That's my issue, like, because I don't see them being as visible in the community with a message as I think they could be, you know. Um, but overall, I feel like blacks lack the desperation to be more community conscious to come against what keeps us marginalized. You know, it's like the movie The Godfather, where all these families in New York are sitting around a big table and all that, and they're discussing bringing drugs into the neighborhoods. You know, it's in the movie. It's unfiltered in the movie, but the one mob boss is like, you know, he doesn't care about the niggers because they're animals, he says. You know, go ahead and dump that garbage in there, the heroin, cocaine, and whatnot, because the niggers are animals, you know, and it's hard to rebuke his claim when we're devouring one another here in our own communities, when our uh, when we want to play pistoliers and drive-by shootings at men and women about to rise up. You know, if, I'm the type of person, if I got an issue, I'll just step out of the picture. You know, that's my MO. So what are black people? Are we just like, do we perceive stability in the white community, therefore being black means instability in ours? Do we see technological advancement, financial literacy in the white community, and we don't care about it in ours? We destroy our space. Um, we get spoon fed the latest advances. You know, do black people have any investment in cell phones? That's a multi-billion, trillion-dollar juggernaut that seems to have no end. Is it all white um, development of this marvel that's put information right in the palm of our hands? You know, has no black man or woman participated in that aside from opening a cell phone store in a strip mall? You know, is that we're just the end, we're the distributor of this awesome product, but our minds have not participated in, you know, developing that marvel. It's all white people, you know. The splitting of the atom, hmm? Great power, great potential. You know, is that all white development and participation? White minds, you know. You hear me say it many times, and this I'll believe this. I haven't had any evidence to the contrary, but black people, we don't lack potential, we lack opportunity. So, you know, in my mind, I'm guessing that some of the avenues that made some of this technology possible is totally, you know, there are gatekeepers there. You know, there's stuff stolen, maybe ideas that black people forwarded that don't make it to the service, don't make it to the patent office, but are quickly appropriated uh, by the white power and entitlement. Possibly. I don't have a whole lot of evidence in that way. I will say I do wonder about um, uh, things like intellectual property, especially from slavery times, like what technological advances happened during slavery that by slaves created by black folks that were not uh, properly documented because they were owned by white men and white society. You ever think about that? We talked about it in early on in Uncle Tom's Cabin. I think it was the first or second chapter of George, Eliza's husband, put this, made some advance at the workplace, and his jealous slave owner got jealous about the slave getting the recognition, took him back to the plantation, and treated him badly. You know, that's poor behavior. But how many black ideas have fallen through the cracks and then get credited to white society? That's something to think about, something to really research. Um, in the brief notes, you'll see I talk about how black folks and the Native American were kind of the victims because of a uh, different value system. The Europeans, they had economics going. They sold and they, uh, you know, the seeds of capitalism were happening in European society. It really came to fruition here in America. And so that free labor from Africa, free land in the Americas, just exacerbated the European greed cycle, and it made so it made makes us wonder, like when we look at black and white, you know, were these original peoples, Aboriginal tribes, just going to continue to be that way without any white involvement? You know, does the light bulb stay dead? Does infrastructure uh, become unrealized? Do medical advances stagnate uh, among peoples who are considered primitive and uh, and animals compared to civilized, sophisticated white folks? Okay, that's something to think about. What would the world be like? Would there be more or less war, more or less disease? And, I'd like to think better of all peoples. Some diseases and things didn't touch some of these groups until white folks showed up. You know, uh, uh, Native Americans, they might have smoked this and that, but alcohol wasn't a problem. But it's interesting. They were so divorced from that the metabolism isn't quite up to par when it comes to alcohol, right? That was introduced by white folks. Alex Haley's Roots talks about Kunta Kinte's travel across the Atlantic, and one of the women who had been captured. This is in his book. Um, and granted, he's there's drama and fictionalization in there, but he gives a picture of a African woman, and she's been raped and sexualized by these by the men on the ship, and so now she's got a venereal disease, vaginal disease, um, that she's got to deal with. These dirty sailors, have had her, been with her sexually. They've introduced that. A lot of things. Watching a movie a little while ago, pretty good movie. Max von Sydow. He was a missionary. He went to Hawaii. Well, the Hawaiians had never been exposed to measles, smallpox, the poxes, and all that stuff. And it made an epidemic right through this village, you know. Uh, so, you wonder, that's kind of the downside. But what about the advances? Automobiles, I don't know, locomotion, you know, things like that, combustion engine. Wonder, but getting back to the original question, the last few minutes here, what are black people? What is black? Is it, is it the white people? They've introduced English, so the black folks and with their slang and their rap and their stuff like that, does that mean black? Uh, Handling a ball, being so proficient with a ball and stuff, running fast, does that describe blackness? Um, Having lesser values, being animals, is that being black, right? Um, so I'm not sure. I don't know. Are we just, you know, are we white folks with black skin? Huh? You or we follow all the white rules, but are because they're white rules, are they necessarily wrong? Think about this, about your identity, about who you are, about your education, about your conditioning, how you live, where you live, what you consider proper. What's the alternative? Would you do something different? You know, I'll leave you with this story. I met a guy. I used to be involved with 12-step fellowships and stuff like that, and so I was getting involved in a certain niche of a self-help fellowship, and so I contacted a guy by phone, and we're talking on the phone and stuff, and we decided to meet. Because we had similar interest in music, writing. We were kind of intellectuals, right? Is intellectuals defined by white intellectuality? Anyway, so we're talking on the phone, and it was we decided to meet. So I make a trip. I go to the city to meet him, and behold, I think both of us were struck by the fact that we were both black. You couldn't tell me that was not a white man on the other end of that phone, and I could tell he felt the same way. So my speech and my diction and my interest and all that, am I just copying white folks? And in my speech, is it so proper, correct that we can't tell a difference over the phone? Color, color by voice. You can tell that some of our commercials on TV is a big black man with a deep voice, a lot of announcements and stuff. If you're watching the black television station, it's a guy with a bass voice, black, right? Interesting things to tease out and muse on, I think. That's what's happening to me as I go through this project. We're going to finish up there. I don't want to get into rambling, but think. Let's get to thinking. Jog the thinking part of ourselves. All right, day 127 out of the way. I'm Tomlin's Nye back here at 365 days towards racial change. I'll see you tomorrow with something hopefully more interesting. We'll see. See you tomorrow.